Oh yeah, back in the lead.
My name's Brandon and this is Video Game History, a show where I take a look back on a certain franchise of video games and retrospectively review them. Today I've finally arrived at a game that I have received countless requests to review, Cartoon Network Racing on the PlayStation 2. There was also a DS version, but as usual I'll be sticking to the console version. Cartoon Network had already had one crack at making a kart racer with Cartoon Network Speedway, and that was a disaster. It was such a half-hearted effort at making a crossover kart racer, and it left me feeling very disappointed. Cartoon Network Racing was released on December 4, 2006 in the US and February 9, 2007 in Europe, and was developed by U-Technics and published by the Game Factory. U-Technics don't have a history of making cartoon-related games, but what you will notice is they have an extensive history of developing racing games, and even made officially licensed F1 and NASCAR games. That's a positive sign. However, the critical response to the game was awful. It sits at a 39 overall on Metacritic, making it the 5th worst rated Cartoon Network game of all time. That is a very alarming sign, however, as always, we'll take a look at it ourselves. Cartoon Network Racing is better than Cartoon Network Speedway. I had to get that out of the way early. Cartoon Network Racing is actually an okay game, much to my surprise, and I can understand why a lot of people were eager for me to review it. First off, it has far more content and effort put into it. You've got a tournament mode, an elimination race mode, co-op races, as well as a versus mode. Annoyingly though, only 6 shows are represented here. Courage the Cowardly Dog, I Am Weasel, the Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Cow and Chicken, and Johnny Bravo are featured, which is pretty much the same shows that were in Speedway. However, unlike Speedway, there is a much bigger roster of characters to choose from. Each show has 3 to 5 characters here, with a number of them being locked at the start. I just don't understand how more shows aren't represented. This came out in late 2006, you have like a dozen more shows to choose from at this point. While it's a bummer that there aren't more shows represented, I must admit the roster is a nice size. The devs were almost forced to include a big roster as they decided to copy Mario Kart Double Dash's 2-driver format. This is something the Crash Bandicoot series also did with Crash Tag Team Racing. Can't think of something original? Just copy Nintendo. Surprisingly, it's implemented rather well. The first racer you choose is the driver and will bring over the kart and its handling, speed, and acceleration stats. The next character you choose is in charge of your special attacks. Each character has 2 special attacks, which can range from things like damaging other racers, shields, or speed boosts. The combo I settled on for the tournaments initially was Johnny Bravo as the driver and Dexter on the weapons, and later I switched to Professor Utonium as the driver with Dexter still on the weapons. What I found is that getting your special ability is far too easy. Cartoon Network Racing has a drifting system, which not only helps you turn sharp corners, but it also powers up a meter. Once the meter is full, you have access to your special ability. The problem with this is that you fill this meter in a flash. It's not too bad if you have attacking special abilities, but Dexter's ability is a turbo boost, and a serious boost at that. This meant that most of the time I'd be getting a ridiculous boost, sometimes every 15 to 20 seconds, which honestly felt like cheating. Unlike Mario Kart, just drifting doesn't give you a boost or anything, so snaking isn't a major problem unless you're racing someone who has Dexter on the back. If you are, then you have a serious problem. I imagine if I had this game as a kid, the house rules would be that nobody is allowed to use Dexter on the back of their kart. I genuinely lost count of how many races I purely won off the back of having such an unbalanced ability. However, I found that in the later races in tournament mode, it wasn't as broken. The handling of the karts is a mixed bag. I initially started off with Johnny Bravo, whose kart has an average handling rating. I thought this would be okay, but it was a disaster. Every bump from a rival racer would send me off course, and there were so many times where I was just taken out because another racer nudged me. Professor Utonium's kart had a handling rater 1 higher than Bravo, and this seemed to make things a lot better, although there were still plenty of times I was knocked around by the AI. Also, good luck to you if you end up getting spun around and are facing the wrong way on the track. Your kart has the turning circle of a 16-wheeler, and you'll always end up dropping to the last couple of places. Each track features at least one shortcut, with many having more than one. Some of these were great, however some of these were ridiculously obvious and overpowered, making me question why anyone on Earth would take a different path. Tracks are far better than Speedway though, yet it still falls into the same trap of having more tracks based on random things than the actual shows. Initially there is 1 track per show, but you'll unlock a second track for each show later on. The reliance on non-show tracks isn't too bad here though, because they're generally well designed and a joy to play through. Some of them are even better than the tracks based on shows. When you're hit with an item during a race, a skull and crossbones will be placed above the character who attacked you's head. If you manage to hit them back with an item, you'll get revenge on them, which automatically fills your special attack meter. This is a really cool mechanic and helps create little rivalries and stories within races. When Bunny Bravo keeps fucking your shit up with items, it makes you really want to beat her. You can also press buttons on the track, which will open up shortcuts or activate hazards, another little feature that I really liked. One thing that I always felt while playing is that victory or defeat was always within my grasp. Even if I was out front with a comfortable lead, I couldn't get complacent as a single fuck up could mean I slipped to the back of the pack. Alternatively, if I was at the back of the pack, I knew it was only a matter of a couple of good moves and some solid racing and I could be back at the front. This made all of the races exciting to play. You know those races in Mario Kart where you dominate so badly from the first lap that you literally don't see anyone for the rest of the race? You'll never see that here. That's one of the most boring things about Mario Kart, and they do a good job of steering clear of it here. It doesn't feel like they're just rubber banding the AI either. It's hard to explain, but it all feels so natural. The tournament mode features one tournament for each of the shows represented. This offers a decent chunk of gameplay, however tournaments are only 3 races long, which I disliked. Having them be just 3 races means that if you have one terrible race, you're basically fucked if you want to come in first place. A single mistake and your time's been wasted. In Mario Kart, you can have 1 or even 2 average races and still make up for it, but here it spells disaster for you. I also found some serious problems when you get to the later tournaments. My biggest gripe was the power-up that gives you a shield that slows the people around you. At least I think it was a power-up, but I can't confirm because I literally never got it. However, I saw like 5 different races using it, so it couldn't be a special attack, right? Either way, it's an awfully designed weapon. The power-up slows you down, but doesn't speed them up or anything, which just results in everyone driving at a snail's pace. It's not enjoyable and really is just a massive drain and inconvenience. The fact that it only starts getting used in later tournaments baffled me too. I also noticed that they decreased your top speed, or at the very least increased the AIs. I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but the difference between the takeoffs was incredibly noticeable to me. Once you beat tournament mode, you unlock Super Tournament. This is a tournament featuring all the show tracks, with the final track being a new track for you to unlock. This felt kinda lazy to me. I don't really want to play through the same tracks at the very least 6 times just to unlock some more tracks. It's just annoying and not very fun. The other game mode is Cartoon Eliminator. How this works is that you have a 5-lap race, with the racer in last place being eliminated each lap until there is only one racer left. This is a cool idea, and one that's been used somewhere else before, although I can't remember exactly where. Cartoon Network Racing is a solid effort. Graphically it looks okay, the soundtrack is nice, and the gameplay is serviceable. So much more thought and effort has gone into this release compared to Speedway, which is evident in the little quips and specific animations characters do throughout races. Unfortunately, there are some pretty major problems I have with it that hold it back from being great. It doesn't compare to any of the Mario Karts, it's nowhere near Crash Team Racing, and it's not even on the same level as Sega's karting entries. However, I would still recommend you playing this if you love kart races or Cartoon Network. There's more than enough here for fans of those two things to find a lot of enjoyment.